Hey guys, I hope you are well, although yikes, because with this astro weather, I don't know how many of us are still standing. As you can see by the title of this live, if you feel crazy right now, same. This is barely even an astro update. Hi, thank you guys all for joining. This is more this video title. I can't. I had a whole plan that I was going to host either some sort of ceremony yesterday, because not only did we have the full moon in Cancer, which we are still obviously under right now, we had the sun conjunct Pluto, and it was just such powerful energy that I was like beforehand when I was looking at it coming up, I was like, that's going to be very overwhelming, but very magical. So I can't wait to host and facilitate something. Yesterday came and I spent 73% of the day just crying, just unwell, unable to exist. And so I say all that to say that I had to first make sure I was good before I showed up for anyone. And I'm still not showing up for anyone. I'm just on here to say that if you feel crazy, if you feel manic, if you feel just completely discombobulated, same. But I want to at least provide some context for why it's happening and how we can work alongside it, while doing the minimal amount of energetic exertion, because I'm going to literally go back to sleep after this. But I mean, obviously today's full moon, it's unwell. Yes, that would be a word to describe where I'm at. Mentally, physically, emotionally, just unwell. We have the full moon in Cancer. Obviously, Cancer is at home when it's in its moon sign, but it's just, I think outside of the fact that this is such an emotional transit, it's not 911. I really do need the ambulance though. Not only is it such an emotional transit because it's bringing to the surface this emotion of I want to escape and find some sort of hole that I can stay kind of firmly rooted in. But what made yesterday in particular so insane was that we had in perfect alignment the sun and Pluto conjoin. And it was this element of really shining conscious light on our subconscious. And that is why the journaling prompt that I shared today was what are my fears teaching me about myself? Because I do not doubt whether you are feeling on top of the world because maybe you have inherently manic energy and now it's just kind of leveling up, or you are feeling defeated by the world, which is where I am at. You are being faced with what your subconscious typically tucks away in order to keep the narrative clean and pristine. So whatever limiting beliefs that you have about yourself, fears, and ways of staying in your comfort zone are getting highlighted right now. It's getting highlighted in a way where, yes, it feels overwhelming. Yes, some of us are overwhelmed, but also we are being invited to work with it in a really beautiful and transformative way. So with the sun, right, being the light, what shines, and ultimately where we harness our identity, working along our subconscious state, right? Our fears, our shadows. Now is such a beautiful time for shadow integration and looking at, so for instance, my teenage self has really been, my teenage self has really been getting reevaluated. I think we talk a lot about inner child healing, but I'm we don't talk enough about adolescent healing and the limiting beliefs about ourselves and the responses that we have to the world and what the world has told us about ourselves at that age plays such a vital role in who we stand in our adulthood. So I'm really been working with my 14 to 16-year-old me and realizing how much I have demonized her and tucked her away instead of integrating her and looking at all the ways in which she was cool and not the rejection that she experienced. And so I use that as an example to say that now is not really a time of shadow healing, but rather shadow integration, looking at the parts of you that you have sort of tucked away and understanding where that was bred from, what that was a response to, what that was a survival tactic for, but ultimately finding a way to integrate that darkness about you into lightness about you and who you are in a conscious state. Also, it is worth noting that if there is anything about your identity right now that is false, and that is what I'm seeing a lot of people in my life and myself also really look at, is what part of my personality and the way that the world experiences me is performative, is bred from survival, is in order to upkeep or just a disconnection from what my authentic true embodiment is, having a really honest conversation with yourself about that, and ultimately understanding that the integration of your shadow is inevitably the integration of your truth, and standing in a more aligned state with honesty is also going to be a beautiful way to work with this transit. It's all a lot. In summation, it's all a lot. So if you're feeling like I'm carrying way too many emotions at once, or I don't really know how to kind of stand in my identity, know that you are not alone. Why I deeply wept every single morning and night this past week, and I just felt like and it's crazy because, girl, yes, thank you for sharing that, because literally same, sis. And I literally, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, there's nothing that can take me down from this high. I am the most powerful creature on this planet. And now I'm like, I am maybe a slug, maybe at best a hamster, and I want to see no one and do nothing but wallow in pity of having to be me. And it'll go. I think it's important to know that, like, emotions are fleeting, and that these periods of time, we can let them just fucking drown and destroy us, and then we just, like, come up and that's it. Or we can actually work alongside it so that the things that are coming up and the ways in which we are processing all of this is not done in vain. So understand that if you do want to work with all of this, instead of just letting it be something that happened to you instead of for you, really look at your shadow. Look at your shadow, understand the truth that you are denying about your shadow, and how you can integrate that further deeply into your identity, while simultaneously in that same breath getting rid of what is inauthentic about your embodiment of self right now. And with this full moon being in the sign of Cancer, which not only is obviously the sign that's ruled by the moon, but also the mother, really looking at any maternal dynamics that can play into any performative aspects about your identity, which is a heavy one. And just like what you have built a comfort in, that is a comfort zone that is keeping you from evolving, and where you are evading allowing yourself healthy comfort. I hope that makes sense. But like, if you are in any sort of state that is overly productive or workaholic-y, where can you gift yourself some comfort? And then in what areas of your life are you keeping yourself in a state of stagnancy in order to maintain comfort? So that's basically it. All in all, if you feel cray-cray, same. Please get as much sleep as you possibly can. We are all sleepy little bears. I do not doubt for a second that you have been emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted. So just making sure that you are gifting yourself the rest that your body is asking for. On a subconscious level, you are processing so much more emotion than you probably even realize. Like more than you are doing on a conscious level. So making sure that you are giving yourself the space to process by supplementing rest. You could be hungrier right now. You could be more irritable, more fatigued. I think I'm trying to separate what's happening to me personally, because I also have Saturn like conjoining my sun, but I'm also in a period of like, I want to be isolated from the world. So if you're feeling that as well, then that would probably have a lot to do with the full moon. But otherwise, just making sure that you are feeding and nourishing yourself on an emotional, physical, mental level, that you are working with the shadows and the fears that are coming up right now, and that you're not exerting too much energy, that you're just kind of letting what needs to happen organically, and what you're being called to look at, that you do look at. Don't let this just be something that happens to you. Work with it, and figure out how can you be more honest with your identity. All right. I'm gonna go sleep for at least 3 years, but I will hopefully be a human again for the next transit. Human enough to stand in some sort of facilitator stance. I'm barely surviving, so I can't really hold anyone else right now. But I love you guys. We're experiencing it all together. And if you're feeling good right now, then congratulations. Good for you. Just kidding. I love you guys. Bye.